Mike Norvell might be the most fired up about this new addition to Florida State's 2025 team moving forward. And to me, in my opinion, this is the top 3 transfer coming into this class moving forward. For Florida State, the Seminoles now making a full-on revamp to that offensive line. So many new pieces coming in, a lot of pieces leaving, either graduating or entering the transfer portal, and Florida State finding their new projected starting center moving forward with Wake Forest's Luke Petitbon coming in from Wake Forest, a very well-experienced center coming in. As we know, Maurice Smith moving on from Florida State. I felt like he played for 8, 9, 10 years at FSU, but had to find someone that could replace him. But this time, I think Florida State finding an upgrade in this room, and they're going to find better play going with Petitbon. I mean, going back to Maurice Smith's career, I felt like he was not fully healthy for a majority of it. Poor guy, man. He was going through battles and battles. And what sucks is that, previous offensive line coach Alex Atkins just could not get anybody developed well enough to replace him or be able to build a depth piece behind him. You saw guys like Darius Washington, who was, a hybrid guy that danced around in the offensive line, and you could put anywhere, but also played the center position as well. But, Maurice Smith, no matter what, dinged up, not fully healthy, he would play on Saturdays, and you could tell too in game that he wasn't fully healthy. But now Florida State finding a new center with Luke Petitbon coming in from Wake Forest. Let's look at some things about him. Played in 33 games at Wake Forest with 23 starts over 5 years. So a lot of veteran leadership coming in, and we'll talk a little bit more about his physical attributes here in a second. But logged 773 snaps in 2024 with an above average PFF grade of 70.4. He allowed just 1 sack in 2024. Florida State, just looking at some of these new transfers that are coming in, which we'll talk about too before this video is over, starting to see a little bit of a theme here of them wanting to bring in guys that were productive in their previous stops. If you look across the board as a transfer class in that 2024 class that just came in this previous season, a lot of that was some project players, some guys that hadn't shown production to you. And like I say that across the board, because you saw that in the wide receiver room as well. You saw it also too in the linebacker room. Some guys wouldn't even see play, like a guy like Sean Murphy, who came from Alabama, or Little Jr. too, who didn't show you a whole ton of production at Alabama, but you were expecting him to develop and also to just immediately plug in and play after you lost Kevin Knowles to the transfer portal going into USC. So kind of reversing course, going back to their old ways of bringing in guys that showed production at their previous stops. Going back to Petitbon here, he was named the 2024 Remington Trophy watch list, which, as we know, is named to the best center in college football. Shout out to Brian Stork. But then also to earn an all ACC honorable mention this last season. He was also named ACC Offensive Lineman of the Week for his performance against Stanford, and also contributed to Wake Forest ACC Atlantic Division Championship and Gator Bowl win in 2021. So when you're talking about 2021 here, you could tell this guy has been around football for a very long time. And I think too, this addition with him coming in is great for some of those younger offensive linemen that Florida State brought in this last class, but also too that they've already have in their room as well. Going to Petitbon, just hearing some things across the board and do some research on him. Very big on leadership and communication. And I think that's something as a center is very, very important to what Florida State needs to have at that offensive line and building some chemistry. I'm down here in Tampa. I cover the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers picked up Graham Barton from Duke. And now look, he started immediately week 1 for the Buccaneers, and it has played a really big part in building that camaraderie and also to that chemistry at the offensive line position. Also to one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. The center position is massive, and the chemistry and the glue all begins at the center position. So Florida State, I think, this is such a great addition for Florida State and what they want to do too, and what Gus Malzahn likes in that run game. The run game's got to get better. I think Florida State does have some talented running backs back there. I really do. I'm seeing some chatter online, not great, not a great room, things last year. And it's really hard to grade what you saw last year and then try to project what it's going to be in 2025 because of just how awful that offensive line was. I expect the running back room to get better. Florida State is looking in that transfer portal too to potentially bring in another running back as well, someone that's proven, maybe more of an explosive guy as well. But yes, you got to have better play from the offensive line in order to get that running game going in the backfield. He was a former 3-star recruit and an Under Armour All-American out of Gonzaga College High School, coming out of Washington, D.C. Mike Norvell, going to him and how excited he is about this addition, you can really tell. He says, "I'm fired up to add Luke to the Nole family. He has great experience and has performed at a high level, earning all ACC recognition this past season. He brings grit and toughness with his style of play, and he will be a great asset to our offensive line on and off the field. Luke is extremely intelligent and embodies key characteristics we were looking for to build upon for our team this upcoming season." So I think one of the things that I take away from this is just going to his intelligence, his comments about his intelligence, and the addition to him on and off the field. Florida State trying to do a lot of good work per usual, under Mike Norvell in these transfer classes, wanting to bring in some guys in the locker room that mesh well and do a good job of bringing leadership, because I think Florida State lost that in this 2024 team. A lot of guys that Mike Norvell thought were going to step up after some of those big losses and some of your leadership with Jared Verse, Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, guys like that you lost. And moving forward into the league, there weren't a lot of guys in that 2024 roster that had that, embodied that. And so this is immediately a guy that comes in and brings that to the table. Now, projecting some of this offensive line here, what the starting unit is going to look like. You brought in Micah Pettis coming from offensive line, an absolute giant of a human being, 6'7", 360 pounds, coming from Ole Miss. And then looking at Gunnar Hansen from Vanderbilt, most likely going to take that left tackle position. I mean, it's a theme, it's a trend. Herb Hand, Mike Norvell, they want to find guys that are experienced, that also gave production at their previous stops, and also at this SEC level too. It's impressive, of course, Petitbon coming from ACC. Still, nonetheless, though, experience is coming to this offensive line, and Mike Norvell has to have this. I mean, this is a massive year for him ahead. I mean, I think for him to save, for him to be safe, you got to reach that 7-8 win mark right there for him. And he knows that, honestly. I mean, that's why they're bringing in some of these guys that have already shown that they can play and they can play ball. But in order for this team to be successful and put points on the board and win games on Saturdays, it's going to come down to the offensive line. And so this is why this is a really important addition to Florida State. Florida State's current roster at the offensive line position: Jacob Rizzi, Richie Leonard, which I think is a really big news that we heard after the season, that he was going to be returning for another season for Florida State previously with the Florida Gators there. But Bryson Estes, TJ Ferguson, Jalen Early, Andre Otto, Lucas Simmons, who I would like to see get developed with Herb Hand, because I think there is a lot of upside with him if he can get some technique down, also put on some size. Manasseh Atiti, John Daniels, Ty Helton, and Jaden Todd. So I think for Florida State, bringing in this top 3 transfer, in my opinion, with Luke Petitbon, is huge, massive, and also is going to play a big role in helping protect Florida State's new quarterback with Thomas Castellanos, and allowing him to have some room and have some leverage. And Thomas Castellanos, yes, he's going to throw the ball, but as we know, I think Florida State is going to do a smart job with Gus Malzahn and Mike Norvell to utilize his legs and try to go back to what you certainly had and success with Jordan Travis. So let me know what you think down in the comments below about this new addition. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video too, and subscribe so you get notified every time we have one of these new videos of Florida State landing some transfers in this busy offseason for Florida State and Mike Norvell. Thanks for watching.